Hello and welcome to another episode of Code to Cloud. Back in, I think it was November time, myself and Ned took the honorary pilgrimage, if you want to call it that, of deploying the ALZ Terraform Landing Zone. And I then, it was one of the most viewed episodes that we had on Code to Cloud. A lot of feedback, a lot of feedback from the community, customers about thank you so much for developing that show and doing that episode and showing us how to deploy it. Then I went away for some internal training in February in Seattle, and I met up with Matt and Jared, who were on the call, and they went, by the way, we've overhauled it and made it easier. And I was like, great, we're gonna have to do another video. So I'm gonna just hand it over to my esteemed colleagues here who are on the show. But yeah, Mark, do you want to kick off with intros? Who you are, what you do?
Yeah, sure. My name's Mark Tinderholt, and I work in Azure Core on platform quality. But I'm also pretty passionate about the infrastructure as code space and just kind of helping developers and platform engineers reduce friction on the Azure platform. But I'm the amateur of this squad, so pleasure to be here, and appreciate you guys including me.
Awesome. Such humility there, to be honest, Mark.
He forgot to mention his alter ego.
I know, right? The Azure Terraformer.
Come on.
I was waiting for the suit to come out.
Yeah, I'm not wearing my uniform, but there is I do have an action figure on sale now.
I
Yours for the low price.
Did you guys like my GUID gun? I thought that was a nice touch.
That's awesome. Jared.
Yeah, I'm Jared. I'm Jared. I'm a cloud solution architect in our core team in customer success, basically. And myself and Matt are jointly responsible for what we're going through today in terms of the modules for Terraform, both for Azure Landing Zones and also Azure Verified Modules, which is another initiative that we look after. And the accelerator is kind of something that I own from a technical perspective, and hopefully I can talk you through it here today. So yeah.
Awesome. And Matt.
Hello. Yeah. Thanks for having me. I am part of the same team as Jared and get to work on Terraform modules for a living. So Jared, as he's already said, principally owns the kind of accelerator experience that we're going to be looking at today. But underpinning that are some modules and a provider, which I'm principally responsible for. So yeah, we'll see them as we dive into it.
Do you know I was thinking about it, Matt, the other day? We've nearly worked together for 4 years. You've had 4 years of the pleasure of working with me.
Feels like it.
Awesome. So, Azure Landing Zone Accelerator, right? Jared, take us away. What does it do?
So basically, it's a bit of an orchestrator around a bootstrapping experience. We want customers to use Terraform in a sort of best practice way, right? And we're trying to steer them down that route by making that the least friction method of deploying the platform landing zone. If you're not familiar with Azure Landing Zones, there's 2 parts to it. Basically, there's a platform landing zone, which is like the hub management groups, policies, hub networking, and logging and things like that are all in the platform landing zone. And then you've got application landing zones, which is vending your subscription, peering, adding networking, peering it. And that's where your actual application workloads go, the things that deliver business value. This accelerator, as of today, focuses on the platform landing zone, although it's going to also encompass application landing zone in the future. So this is how do you bootstrap those Terraform modules, the permissions and identities and everything that you need to be able to deploy that platform landing zone and update that platform landing zone for day 2 operations. using what we see as best practices that we see in other customers. So we've basically got three options, or two options for deploying it, and a third option as a fallback. So the two options that we have is you can bootstrap GitHub for continuous delivery, or you can bootstrap Azure DevOps for continuous delivery. And we deploy everything that you need to do that end to end. So it'll create the repositories, it'll create the environments, the teams, everything that you need in GitHub or Azure DevOps, and it'll also create the resources you need in Azure for Terraform, so things like storage accounts, agents if you're using, if you choose the private agents option, networking, private endpoints, everything that you need to use Terraform in a secure manner and have your state file in Azure Blob Storage in this case. So
I should also perhaps point out that you've baked a lot of really good practice into this. So it's not just like you've got a storage account for your state file. It's like we've got private networking enabled, and the only things that can access it and have permissions to it are the agents themselves and all this kind of stuff. So we've tried to, well, Jared has principally tried to put so much best practice into this. It's like we want you to fall into the pit of success because it's the easiest thing to do, I guess.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so that's basically what it does. So it'll, after we've run the accelerator, so basically there's like three stages. One is a few prereqs that you need. So there's some things that are difficult to automate because it's like a chicken and egg scenario. So you need at least one identity with some permissions, which is going to be your user account in your case, I think. And then you need some subscriptions. We need some platform subscriptions, 3 of those to start with. And then you also need, obviously, a version control system with some permissions on it. I forgot to say what the third option was. So the third option is you can actually just send the files to your local file system, and then you can immediately run the platform landing zone Terraform directly from the local file system. That's the third option. Obviously, we recommend using one of the other two if you can, but if you're using a third-party version control system, we currently don't support those. So that's the kind of fallback option for that scenario. Yeah, so these are the prereqs here. So once you've got through these prereqs, there's a few tools you need as well there, obviously. So we do run on PowerShell because it's agnostic of the operating system that you're running on. The Azure CLI we use for authenticating to Azure, and you need Git version control because Terraform relies on that, and it's difficult things to install dynamically. Where with Terraform, the bootstrapping itself is actually using Terraform behind the scenes. So whether you choose Bicep or Terraform in this scenario here, behind the scenes, the bootstrapping is actually using some Terraform modules to do all the bootstrapping. For GitHub, Azure DevOps, and Azure is using Terraform to do that. So we actually check if you've got Terraform installed and install it if you don't have it. So that's abstracted away from you as a user of this. What else? I think that about covers sort of the prerequisites. And then the next phase is there are some configuration files. We provide templated configuration files. You basically choose which configuration file you want, and then you adjust it if you need to, and then then you actually run the accelerator orchestrator, which is a PowerShell module that we have published publicly, and then that does the bootstrapping. And then the third phase, the final phase, is literally just kicking off a continuous delivery pipeline, and that continuous delivery pipeline is what actually deploys the platform landing zone itself. So that's kind of the three phase approach. So yeah, we do have a bunch of docs here that go into depth on everything, like that you're scrolling through here, Kevin, that explain what's in those configuration files and what have you.
So the PowerShell is, if I'm hearing you right, the PowerShell is collecting information, about these platform subscriptions you have. Yeah, and maybe some identity information, maybe some of that's passed in implicitly.
Yeah, we actually create identities. So in our prerequisites, the account that's running this has to have elevated permissions, but then we create identities and assign the permissions to those identities that they need to be able to deploy the platform landing zone. And we also use workload identity federation. We set that up as well as part of the bootstrapping. So the account that you use here doesn't need permanent access. It because we create the identities as part of this bootstrapping process. Yeah.
And so you're creating stuff in Entra, you're creating stuff on either Azure DevOps or GitHub.
Yeah.
Are you creating stuff on Azure?
Yeah, in Azure, we're creating storage accounts, networking, agents. So we're using, at the moment, we're using the Azure Container Instance for agents, but we're going to offer different options in the future as well.
I think they released managed DevOps tools just after you'd done the first version of this.
Yeah, and we also support Azure Container Apps as another option, but we haven't brought that in here yet. It will be in the short.
So I'm just looking at this because this is great as well, because sometimes it feels like when you're looking at landing zones, especially platforming, analysis paralysis kicks in, right? Because a lot of organizations want to make sure they get it right the first time around, right? And when I'm explaining it to customers and people in the community, that the platform side of the landing zone is as organic as the rest of Azure, right? And sometimes that's a bit of a head spin for them. They're like, well, what do you mean it's not going to last 10 years? I'm like, no, like everything in Azure, right? It's organic, right? And I feel like this is where this helps a lot, in terms of it's very prescriptive. Like there's loads of guardrails, right? Like this is from years of experience and collaboration, right? From our partners and customers, right? On how this is going to work. But I really like the planning phase because we're all technical on the call and we just want to get into the code, right? But look at Mark laughing, right? Literally planning this out really helps. And I can see here that you've broken it down into some real high level chunks here, which is great. But then there's also a Excel document, like a checklist to get yourself up and running as well. Like to plan that out. And, I feel like just, obviously going referencing back to the Azure Verified Modules, right, which we've talked about before as well. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, we try and talk customers through this if they're not familiar with it already. There's a bunch of high level decisions they have to make up front about how they deploy the Bootstrap, but also the platform landing zone. We try and help them go through that here, basically. So, yeah.
Okay, and I'm loving the answer files already. True or false? Like yes or no. That's exactly what I need in my life, right? So yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's kind of I like how it up levels some of those decisions for you, and it's almost like asking you, kind of non-functional requirements for your new environment.
Yeah. It's probably worth so these decisions here are primarily about the Bootstrap, but there's also some decisions around what region do you want to deploy it into as your core region, or if you do multi-region, which we do by default, then which two regions do you want to deploy it into? But then you've got this section here, which is more specific to the platform landing zone, and in here we've got the scenarios, which you could click through now and quickly show you what that is. So this is again trying to help customers make a decision at a high level about what they want to deploy. So we've got pre-configured configuration files. I said configuration twice there, but in the same sentence. But basically, we have a bunch of templated configuration files that work right out of the box without needing to change anything. That will deploy these architectures of the platform landing zone. And basically, they come in here, they choose one of those scenarios as a starting point, and then they download the configuration file, basically, and then they can adjust that to their own needs. And we have another section called options, which helps them adjust that as well. So the options is common things that customers ask for. If you scroll down a bit, you'll be able to see it in the left-hand menu. It says options, yeah. So these are, if you click on the options itself, the actual one that says options, sorry. That one there. You can, if you scroll down a bit here, there should be just a list of them, hopefully, somewhere down there. because they have to update the configuration file, we give them detailed guidance on how to update a TFVARS file, basically. So it's using native Terraform technology, but for customers that might not be familiar with Terraform, then we that's what that top section is there. But these are the things that we offer at the moment as things that they can adjust, basically, and we offer detailed steps on how to change those things. So, common things like wanting to update the names of resources, the names of management groups, turning off things like because they might not be ready to use them yet. Those kind of things we've got in here.
Awesome. I really like that. It's like a templated approach, because I feel like it will be great for this exercise as well. So if we go back, so I've got my which one do you want to, like? You've even got like bring your own network virtual appliance as well, because
we have, but it doesn't go as far as actually letting you deploy the NVA in there.
Right,
We kind of stop at the point where it's configured, ready for you to deploy your NVA into there. So we do things like setting up the root tables and private DNS resolver and everything else that you might need for that, but not as far as we can't support every single NVA out there. So we don't go that far. But yeah.
When they bring their own NVA, there's a different layer of configuration is required as well, right? Depending on the NVA type. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I'd probably go with the top one, unless you've got another option, another preference, which is so it's hub and spoke virtual networking with Azure Firewall. So the virtual appliance here is you're going to use Azure Firewall for that, and it's going to do a multi-region. In this case, it's 2 regions. You can add more regions if you want to. So there's going to be basically mesh networking with virtual networks paired together, and then it's going to have a whole bunch of other stuff that you can see here that's going to be deployed in there as well.
Oh, come on, man. We got to go VWAN all the way, baby.
We can do it. Just takes slightly longer to deploy.
I'm so done with VWAN, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. I really like the way that it's laid out the resources as well, so you know what's being deployed, right? So you've this helps the documentation heroes, right, that are writing this up for their architecture as well. Like, this is what's going to be in my landing zone. So
when we run in the plan, we should be able to see. We should, like in Azure DevOps or GitHub, there should be a plan, right? That gets them.
There is, yeah.
There is a plan, yeah.
And then we have to smash like yes, do.
So at the moment, this is deployed in one repo with one pipeline. So you will get hundreds of resources. I mean, even if you just do policies, there are like 300 resources, 400 resources, right, in the plan, because you've got all the role assignments for policy, all the initiatives, all the, there's a lot of resources. So we do have some plans on the backlog to maybe think about breaking this up a bit in terms of maybe management groups and policy is one, connectivity is another, and management stuff is one more kind of pipeline, but we're not there. We're not there at the moment.
Music to my ears. I'm a huge fan of multi-repo.
It could be multi. If you've got multiple teams, then multi-repo definitely. Even if you just got one team, even just splitting it out into kind of different directories and different pipelines would help reduce the amount of time it takes to do a Terraform plan, for example. If you just wanted to change your firewall, there's no need to reevaluate all of your management groups and policies. So,
exactly.
Yeah, it's all that kind of stuff.
And the repo, I feel like in the infrastructure as code world, right? The repo is like the new RBAC boundary that matters, right? Because it's like that's where
that's the identity's tied to the repo.
You're surrendering permission to the GitHub action or the pipeline, right? And so like whoever has commit permissions, it's kind of important.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so we're going with hub and spoke.
Yeah.
Old faithful.
VWAN, VWAN, baby. Come on.
I personally,
Kevin's like, no.
No, do you know what it is? Personally, I would go for VWAN, but time is of the essence here, Mark. So I can see the looks on Matt and Jared's face, like, just pick the hub and spoke, right? So that's exactly what we're gonna do, right? I'm sorry. Do you know what? We can always come back, Mark, and just have a private show, deploy it, right? Yeah. So
would it even be much slower? I mean, I'm not trying to be like a country. Yeah.
Go on then. Mark's got his way.
Did I? I mean, YOLO, baby. I mean, come on.
Yeah. So just to avoid coming back here in the future, you might want to right click, save that .tfvars file somewhere.
I've got a fancy keyboard that doesn't work. It's just
Can you not right click?
I can't right click with a Mac. There we go. It's
We've done
downloaded.
it. Well done.
All right,
Okay.
there we go.
Gotta get a real mouse with your Mac, man.
So I guess the best place to start would be to go to the user guide, to phase 1. So assume we've done all the planning, we know what we want. We want
Yeah.
that. Yeah. So if you go into prerequisites, then I think you've already installed these tools, right? So we've got PowerShell and Azure CLI.
Fingers crossed. Yes.
You have 3 platform subscriptions that you told us about before, but if you click through that link there, you can see what we need.
You're not just gonna rock one subscription, Kevin? Come on.
No.
So yeah, we've got basically we've got a management group. Are you going to target tenant root group? Or are you going to target one that's for another one? Or
Tenant root group. Let's just keep this vanilla as
Yeah.
possible. Yeah.
You can target whatever management group you want. So if you want to build something underneath there, you can do that. And then the 3 subscriptions, we have one for management, one for connectivity, and one for identity. The management one is going to have some things like log analytics workspace in it, and the connectivity is where we're going to deploy V1 in this case. So those are the 3 subscriptions. And I think you've already got these permissions applied from what you said before.
So full disclosure, it's a brand new tenant with the free subscriptions in it, and I literally logged in. So if I've got global admin basically, right? So
Okay.
Does this drop any like heavy metal, or is it all like PaaS stuff? Like I only ask because like the VM SKUs get squirrely with the free those new free subs. You know what I mean?
We don't deploy any VMs directly. It's just
checking.
Yeah.
Looking out for you, Kevin. Looking out.
I know these aren't free accounts. Don't worry. I got these.
Okay.
Our illustrious employer provided this environment, so we should be good to go. But I love the term heavy metal, Mark. I'm going to steal that from now on. Right? Let's write that down.
I think about it, man. Heavy metal.
Right then. Let's open up the PowerShell. Right? Is this step 1?
Yeah, basically authenticate. So you can obviously use a service principal if you want as well to do this, but I think we're using a user account here, which is what we recommend because it's simpler.
Okay, so
service principal. Oh man, better watch out. Matt's gonna take a torch to you, man.
So all this is using workload identity federation. So it's all right.
As long as there's no client secret, though, right?
No, I will.
In the service principal is just an option for the Bootstrap. And you'd only use it as one-off and then get rid of it, basically.
And unfortunately, with ADO, you do need a long-lived PAT token, don't you, for the agents? But it doesn't have to have much permissions. Yeah. It's just you have to
Who would afford it? PowerShell and Mac OS. We rolled back the dial 15 years ago, right? Look at us now. So
I know you've got 2 mouse buttons now on a Mac. You used to have 1, remember? If you're really old, you'll remember Macs just have 1 mouse button.
That's
Oh boy, we can see his password.
This is it.
the temporary account. Do you know what? My mouse is... Just bear with me.
Do not email Kevin. I always get nervous when like these intro, windows show up on videos,
Tell this is live.
Are people gonna are randos gonna start emailing me or something?
Oh yeah, like what mouse are you using? And I'm like, it's a Mac mouse, and they're gonna be like hating on me. And
did you buy the Mac mouse with the charge port on the bottom?
Yes.
So you can't charge it and use it at the same time.
Oh, I can. It's charged. But
that's just trolling you now, man.
I know I'm getting destroyed.
I use Logi, Like all my Macs, I love
Yeah.
Logi. Like what is this? MX Master or whatever.
But just log into my password wallet here on the other side. No, do you know what? I think I had like a Logitech. I think it was even a Surface mouse, right? Just to be ultimately ironic, right? But it just wouldn't work with the interface properly. So I just thought I'll take a gamble, right? And just get they were on sale. That's my excuse. Right. So
I have way too many dead mice running around my house. I think I have every version of like the Surface mouse. I have the little. Remember the little trap? It's like a half triangle. That little thing.
No. Do you remember
like
the one
that.
that snapped?
Oh, the wedge. It's called the
Oh
wedge.
yeah, the one that snaps flat. They were
Oh,
cool.
I love
That was
those.
awesome.
Those are
Yeah,
sweet.
yeah.
I definitely like. I got they came in black originally, and then they went to gray.
All sorts of. I had like one with like a quilted thing on it. Yeah, it's very fancy.
I couldn't afford that one.
No, it was
Awesome.
I've never seen the quilted one though, but those that snap flat were pretty sweet.
Right.
When traveling.
Let's go old school. We're gonna have to do device code login. So what is it? Microsoft.com. Oh no.
It's in the text there, the dash used to device.
Yeah, it actually emits it on the console output, which is
Does it?
Yeah, very useful.
But yeah, look at that.
You got to get yourself a better terminal because then you can command click the link and it'll.
I've got Warp. I'm still testing that. Yeah, I like it.
Warp. Yeah.
What about Ghosty? You know?
Yeah, I've heard good things about that.
That's what Mitchell's like. Spending
Mitchell
time
H.
on these days.
Yeah.
Flying airplanes and making terminals. Living the life.
Like Warp had a login requirement, but they took that away.
Yeah.
So I was going to chance it on Warp, but I just thought
that is a serendipitous approved sign-in request number. Just saying. Nothing.
I'm glad you're here, Mark.
You guys are way too professional. Jeez.
Cool.
Hey.
We're gonna cut that out and post.
No, we're not, Mark. You're gonna be famous for it.
No, I don't want you to. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, that's cool. That'll do. Yeah.
So just leave it. Nice. I'll just leave it. I'm free for the time being.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think it matters, right?
It does not.
Well, this is where the Bootstrap resources are going to go. So it kind of does.
It kind of does matter after I press enter.
If you don't specify it, that's where it'll go. But you can be explicit and say, "I want it in this sub as well." When we look,
always be explicit.
Yeah, but also if you had 4 subscriptions, we could put the Bootstrap stuff in a separate subscription as well.
We could.
Right.
And just to point out, at the moment, the Bootstrap resources, so things like the storage account for your state file and things like that, are not automatically put into remote state because the Bootstrap's only designed to be run once and then you leave it. So, yeah. But obviously your actual deployment, your CI/CD stuff, is obviously put into remote state, and that's fine.
Understood.
The Bootstrap at the moment is a fire and forget.
Oh yeah, as it should be when you automate the automation, right? Like, anytime you're provisioning repos, you don't want to just like, oops, there goes all my code.
Yeah.
And commit history. Bye.
Right, where were we? We were logging in.
Yeah, so we logged in, and then the next, I think we're on to phase 2.
Phase 2 now.
Yeah.
Check us out.
Yeah.
You know,
I should probably keep the instructions on my screen so I can.
I was going to say, why don't you tile the windows? Maybe like you could. Yeah,
I tried that. Like that is a feature now.
It is Mac OS has
in
that.
Mac, but it doesn't look.
So I've got a top tip for you. There's a utility. It's free. It's called Rectangle, and it allows you to do keyboard shortcuts for like window tiling and stuff. And
Right.
yeah, but obviously you haven't got that.
No,
I don't
I
think
haven't.
it does that yet, Gavin.
I feel like I'm just going to get loads of comments shredding me for using a Mac during this video, but let's just keep going.
How many Microsoft engineers does it take to manage Windows? Ooh.
Oh, right.
The-
So
I'll let you read it.
we're going to install this module here, right? So we've obviously logged into PowerShell. Got PowerShell running.
No.
We've logged into the Azure CLI.
You haven't got. I mean, this is a fresh machine, so you haven't got it installed.
No, that's
so you
right.
just need to go to step 4, because that's just saying, have you got it? If
You've
not,
got
update
it,
it. Because there's a
right.
separate. Because PowerShell, there's a separate command for updating a module than it is for installing a module.
There's a little step 4 at the top.
Oh, there.
Yeah, there. Yeah.
Sorry. See, there's a reason why you guys are here. I love it. Right. Let's see if this works. Do you know, historically, I've always had better experience using PowerShell on a Unix or a Linux box rather than a Windows box, because I could never get the user context to run properly. It used to drive me crazy.
So yeah, Y or A here. Yeah.
Well, that was quick.
Yeah.
Okay. I know, right? So
yeah, this is just talking through a little bit about what we've already talked about a little bit. But there's 2 configuration files. One is for the Bootstrap, right, and it's basically a YAML file that you set up the things that you need to know about the Bootstrap. So whether you're using private networking for the storage accounts, using self-hosted agents, and then there's the platform landing zone configuration file, which is the one that we've already looked at briefly, which is the scenario that you chose. We also have a lib folder, which if we look at updating management group names and things like that, then we'll come and look at this, but it's not a mandatory one that we have to fill in. So it's just there to explain what it is here.
awesome. So do we have to edit any of these files?
Yeah,
Right.
so so if you keep following the steps down below, it'll take you in the right direction. So yeah, first of all, I think we're going with Terraform. I don't think we're going to go with Bicep. So
because we want to be able to delete stuff afterwards.
Yeah, that's true.
What?
We can't delete stuff with Bicep.
I've written a script for the Bicep one that deletes everything. It's a PowerShell script. So yeah.
I remember Jack had we called it a nuke it from orbit script.
Yeah.
I think it's been taken down since then because it was so powerful, right?
Jack scripts I've put in there, so when you run a destroy in the Bicep one, it runs Jack scripts basically, slightly augmented, but the same.
Like,
so we're going with GitHub then, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
Script sounds like it's going to go down in infamy.
Here be dragons, Mark. Like, I ran it once, and it literally there was nothing left. Like nothing.
Scorched earth.
Scorched earth.
Russian winter.
Yeah. Right.
So this is telling you about the standard file structure that we go with. But that if you just run, you see there's like a Linux Mac OS tab there.
Yeah.
Theoretically, if you just run that script there, it'll set up that folder structure for you that I was talking about.
Amazing.
Oh no.
Oh, it's because there's a bug in it. You've got a prefix of a /.
But does that not work on Mac?
It does, but you have got permissions to the root file system, so you just
Okay, so should we do // for this?
// would be good. Yeah.
So paste it, but put a // at the front.
Do a line at the top. Do a line at a time.
You might have to modify this in code editor to add the // one line.
Yeah. I will update this to use a // I think in the future.
idiosyncrasies of the multi-OS world we live in.
Well,
Hooray.
there we go. We're bug fixing live as well. I love it.
Thing 1. Now we got to do thing 2. We don't need the comments. Come on, Kevin. I saw what you're doing. It added the comment.
It added it anyway, right?
Yeah,
So
what?
it's like I'm gonna bait Mark, right?
Like you have like console copilot or something happening here.
This is the way.
Oh, you need that option, man. There's an option.
If you use the warp terminal, it's got that all built into it, and
You missed an option, dude.
Which option?
The / accelerator output. That's a directory.
Oh yeah, that is true.
No. On the third thing.
Oh,
thing
right,
3.
right.
Yeah. That's not a comment. That's
important.
kind of important.
Look what you've done, Mark. You got me all.
God put that rock there for a reason, Kevin.
No, and the /.
Right.
Go. Nice.
So if we do an LS, probably not the right way to put all this.
CD accelerator.
CD accelerator. Or CD ACC star.
Is it / accelerator?
No.
Just
accelerator.
Well, this is PowerShell. I mean, I'm a little out of my depth.
So the commands that you run later on will be assuming that you're in that net runner folder.
Oh, well, sorry.
Yeah, but we can update. We'll have to update the commands anyway to use the dot. So it's up to you what you.
So the runner folder needs to be the directory above accelerator.
It doesn't have to be. We just in our commands we assume that people aren't going to be.
You're at the top level.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I am going to just disappear for a few minutes and I'll be back as soon as I can.
No worries.
Matt can take it.
We're screwed.
It was your PowerShell comments, Mark. You made him leave.
Yeah, he takes it very personally.
Kidding. I love PowerShell. Please invite me to the DevOps conference.
So, basically, so you're on step 4 now.
Yeah. Just keep it focused. Right. Open your inputs.yaml. Right. So.
Yeah, if you open the accelerator directory in here, then. Yep.
Maybe just the whole accelerator.
I didn't ask for that. So.
Well, that's a new experience.
Go show local on the.
Yeah. And then accelerator.
Just open accelerator because you'll need.
Okay. Yeah. Top root. Yeah.
Are you running like an internal build of VS Code? Because that's not how open folder works for me. Maybe you have an extension.
Right. So we were looking at what was it? Inputs.
Config inputs.
Probably config and then inputs.yaml.
And then you basically have to take the code from one of those links and paste it into there.
Now the code, like the YAML, that was was that the VWAN stuff?
So this is basically this tells the Bootstrap. In a minute, you're going to run a PowerShell command, and this YAML file is going to tell the PowerShell.
So
you want the GitHub YAML, like on the page back there. There's like a YAML there called.
So you want the top one actually.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
There we go.
You've downloaded it, so yeah.
Yeah, congratulations. Right.
Open new window. Man. I don't know. Now we get to see what's in his downloads directory.
Oh no. Yeah. So
Kevin's like, why did I invite this guy?
Do you know what? I love it. There's nothing better than having like two esteemed colleagues watching you type stuff out on the terminal, making mistakes.
Right. Criticizing your every move.
It might be worth
actually I put that in the wrong one, right?
Oh yeah, you did. Doing a command plus on that because it's slightly difficult to read for me.
No. Come on. There we go.
Oh yeah, just make it bigger.
Right. So we've got that.
So you need to fill out some of these values. Yeah.
So I need to get a GitHub personal token,
Yeah.
a GitHub runners token.
I wish I could help you, but I can't.
And then an email address. Right.
You
Okay.
need some sub IDs too.
I've got
Yeah.
those. That's not a problem.
Oh, okay.
Have you got
What
another
region are we
monitor?
gonna
So
go
you,
to?
have you got another monitor so you can put your PAT tokens in?
Yeah.
somewhere secret?
Yeah.
Okay,
like,
cool.
So I'm gonna.
Blur effect. Doodaloo.
Right. I'm gonna go and set up the GitHub.
So you might want to read the yeah, just create 2 PAT tokens. It's fine. I think they can be, for the purposes of this demo, they can be the same. Technically, different permissions are required. I think that's only really valid if
I
you're
mean,
using
just
it.
invalidate the PAT token after
Yeah.
the record, like before you publish the record.
I'll blow it away, right? So. Do you know what? They changed it in GitHub. So now they've got enforce granular, because you used to go to like developer settings, right?
Yeah, you have to provide granular settings.
So I'm trying to remember where this is.
From my experience with the GitHub AT, I could probably help you with.
Yeah. Let's get up to the page.
Yeah,
Right,
let's go through the PAT token creation, because that is actually like not for the faint of heart.
No,
Yes,
it's not, right?
It's like, do I need this?
Right.
I
So
mean, I guess you could just like give it everything.
Yeah, I mean, just
let's
I
do
mean,
that.
it does.
And
We do document. Let me dig out the link. We do document the permissions that you need.
But let's go through it anyway. Like, we'll probably give everything, but like we can point out the ones you probably need.
yeah. Full disclosure, do not give God mode privileges, as I like to call it, from my Quake days, right? To it, right? We've got the permissions decked out. All right, then Mark, where do we go? Take me to school.
You click on your face on the top right,
Your profile in the upper
Yeah.
and then
right.
you go to, I think it's settings, is it? Or your profile? Your profile.
And then on the left,
Yeah.
scroll down.
It's like developer something, right?
Yeah, that's it,
developer
developer
settings.
Personal access tokens. Personal access tokens. Nope.
Pat.
Fine grained tokens.
I mean, you can go fine grained
Generate
if
a
you
new
want. But
token.
yeah.
Sorry, say it again, Matt.
Go on. Yeah, this
button
is
on the
fine.
right.
Yeah, generate a new token.
Security.
Oh, we're so close. Just 2 off. Man. 1 for 2.
Token name. ALZ deploy.
Give it like today's date so that you remember to delete this. To like delete it before you publish.
I'm gonna put Monday.
Yeah.
I'll come in and delete it anyway. Right.
So yeah, you can set the repository access. Are you doing this in a public repo? I probably not. You probably need to set all repos, because I'm assuming it generates private repos. Matt,
Maybe
maybe it's a setting.
it probably is a setting.
On the
I think
GitHub AT, I make it a setting.
so. This is the page. I can put the permissions page in the private chat that we have on this recording, and that's the website that you can go to, and that tells you what permissions your GitHub paths need. Oh, actually, okay. Is this a GitHub organizational account or a personal account?
This is my personal account.
Okay, so it does not support GitHub
That's another
personal
thing.
accounts.
Does your personal organization? Are you planning on deploying this to an organization? Or
Yeah,
you'll
need to create an organization basically, and you can create a free organization here.
It's all right, because here's one I made earlier.
Oh, even better.
Yeah.
Boom.
Boom.
Now, does
Right.
this have like a basic plan?
This has like the free plan. Yeah.
Yeah. So just to bring Jared, who's come back, up to speed, we are going to use this GitHub organization. Would you, when we're creating the PAT tokens, would you recommend that we use Classic or Fine Grained?
Because Fine Grained literally just went GA like in the last couple of weeks, we only provide instructions for Classic at the moment. I will update it for Fine Grained in the coming weeks, but it was in preview before, so. So if you look in the, I think we skipped over it in the prereqs, but there was a section that told you what permissions you need for the patch and what.
Yes.
Well, you found it.
I
Yeah.
have.
Okay. Right.
I've just put
Yeah.
the link in there.
So I would probably going forward recommend the fine grains, but at the moment we don't have the instructions for that because it wasn't available.
Generate new token, classic.
I do this all the time for my GitHub AT-AT, and I think we're provisioning the same things. You know, repos, branches,
So
environments. That's one thing, Kevin, I wanted to check with you, because environments is a GitHub feature that is only available if you have a paid plan.
Well, it's also available in public repositories, which is what we're going to do for this free one. Yeah.
So what because this is only, it's an important step, but this PAT token is only required for the Bootstrap, so you can set the expiration date to tomorrow, which will also mean that by the time people watch this video, that PAT token will not be valid. So
But also,
so it's repo, workflow, admin org, user read all, user email, and delete repo.
Delete a repo, right?
Yeah, the delete
Right.
repo is only there for cleaning up purposes. Yeah.
And that is
Okay.
it, I think.
Right.
Oh,
So-
have you selected the organization that it's part of? Oh no, because it's classic token. You can't do that, can you? Fine, cool.
So hold up. Can you go up further? If we get the PAT token wrong, like we're gonna smash our head into a wall. So, and then we'll have to come back and do it again. So
Yeah.
it's important we double check this, I think.
So we got repo.
Repo full, workflow
Yeah.
full, admin org, user read user, and user read email. Or user email, sorry. Yeah. And then delete repo. That's it.
You don't need the user follower, but because you checked the box up above, it's checked that one as well.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. I'm going to stick that in a text file to make sure it's secure.
All right, everybody, go get Kevin's Bitcoins.
Yeah. I'm already on it. So you might need to click the configure SSO button if your organization enforces SSO.
It does.
Well, there you go then. Oh no, it doesn't.
No. Oh no, I've got the free one, right? So
Yeah,
it's not there.
We don't need that.
Okay. So we're good?
Yep.
Right.
So now we go back to that input.
Sorry, we do need another PAT token. Sorry. Yeah.
You do. Okay.
Well, are we choosing to do the self-hosted agents?
Probably. Yeah.
Are they available on the free plan?
Yeah.
Right.
We can do all features on the free plan. The limiting factor is our repos need to be public.
So I'm just going to put some notes around these keys. So V1, V2.
So that one PAT token is used for the initial cloud shotgun.
Yeah.
And then the other PAT token's used for like the ACI runner.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Yeah.
running.
Yeah. And this is something I do want to improve, that we can use something better for this. But yeah.
And is it the same permissions again, or is there a different document?
No. If you scroll down, look, it's the step one, so it's no expiration, and there's only one permission that it needs, I think. Oh, you need repo and then self-hosted runners, right? Yeah. Which we won't be able to do because we haven't got a paid order.
I think these instructions are not the easiest to follow, sorry, but it's that second section there where there's just yeah.
There.
So you need a second PAT. You can call it what you want.
And so this PAT has reduced permissions. What is it?
Yeah, so it's for the agent to register itself in the repo in this case. We also support runner groups and org agents as well if you've got like an enterprise plan. But for this one, we're just going to use a repo agent. So I think it's
repo type. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just that you need.
Just that.
There's one, isn't there like an org setting too?
You don't need that if you're not doing a agent at the org level, because our agents are just going to be at the repo level here.
Right, okay. Copy that. Right. Awesome. Okay, so back to VS.
So IAC type should be Terraform.
Yeah, should we go through? Yeah, Terraform, Bootstrap modules, ALZ, GitHub,
Yeah.
Platform Landing Zone, Bootstrap location. I always get those wrong. How to type them out. So
it's like the UK file. Where you are.
Canada Central is. Oh, is it? There's no space, right?
No, not in the. This is the name, not the display name. So yeah.
And then, what's starter
So
location?
this is the two because you've chosen a sorry. Yeah, multi-region. It's
right?
the two regions where you want to deploy your platform landing zone.
We've got the Azure Terraform K9 companion in the background, which I love. Mine's outside basking in the sun.
Oh, I wish I had sun.
He's pouting because mommy's gone.
So I woke up to a foot of snow this morning. Nice.
That's 30 centimeters for our metric system users.
Sorry, yeah, sorry. I was brought up on metric as well, but that's what happens when you have a have a father that only shouted out like inches and feet and everything, right? So root management group ID.
So because you're using tenant root group, you can just leave that empty, and it'll use that.
Okay.
Or you could put the tenant ID in there, or you could put another management group ID in there. But for our use case, we can just leave it empty, and it'll default to tenant root group.
All right. So I'm going to log into this Azure portal on the other side here. Too many windows open.
Shouldn't it be able to get the root management group ID? Or is this
like it does?
Is it like you're assuming that you're handling both cases? They may not have management.
No, the point is that they can deploy the ALZ hierarchy under whatever management group they want. It doesn't have to be under tenant root group. They could have another layer of management groups under there and deploy it under one of those management groups. So that's why I want to specify it. But if you leave it blank, it's just going to go with the tenant ID, which is your tenant root group management group. Yeah, if you're on an old tenant that doesn't have management groups enabled, if that still exists, then this would fail, obviously. But that's not the case here.
So we can leave root parent management group empty. Good.
So just to let everyone know that this Azure environment will be destroyed. So all of the amazing information that we see here will be gone.
Although you can everything can be supplied in this file like this, right? You can paste it in here. You can also supply everything in this file through an environment variable as well as an alternative. So you don't have to have these things hard coded in this file if you don't want to have them. You can use basically a TFVAR input as an environment variable, and it'll read those instead.
So for the Bootstrap subscription ID, do we leave that blank, or
you can leave it blank?
Yeah.
And it'll use whatever subscription you're connected to with AZ CLI, or you could just paste in the management subscription ID in there, and it'd have the same impact basically. Yeah.
Mark's a fan.
Yeah.
Always be explicit.
Tell it what to do, right? Do you know the amount of times I used to deploy this? Well, the old version, and I'd be like, "Where's my connectivity resources?" And I'd put the wrong, after the 50th time of running it, I'd put the wrong sub ID, and I'd have to it worked, but now I've got to delete it all again because I deployed it in the wrong one, right? So, so service name is ALZ. This is the tenant management.
So
right?
this is actually related to the naming of the Bootstrap resources. So this is what it uses to build up the name of the resources. So the next three, service name, environment name, and postfix number, are there for naming of resources. You can actually override those names entirely if you want as well, but we have some standard naming convention that you can use here.
Don't forget the double quotes.
Yeah, it's a list of strings, so you need to.
Yeah, and also that needs to be the email of the account that you're using in GitHub.
In GitHub, yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Because it's the environment approvers that can merge to trigger the pipelines. Basically.
I think we're going to see Kevin's email.
Just double check.
And you probably use that as the commit user when you're dropping files, right? Because the Terraform provider for GitHub needs a commit user.
I've added some validation in now, so that if that email is incorrect, it will actually tell you, whereas before it didn't used to tell you. So that's in there now.
I'm trying to double check which email address I've used to log in. Just find it. And it doesn't tell me. What is it, Kevin? Remember. Hang on. Emails. That would help. All right. There we go.
Please email Kevin.
Yeah. I'm
okay.
He's very interested in real estate.
I'm available for parties and social gatherings.
So
okay.
The other online 27 and 28 there, that's the decision around whether you want to use private networking and self-hosted runners. So we recommend leaving those on because it's the most secure option.
Yeah.
And then 29 is kind of is a debugging thing that you might need to use on once in a blue moon, but you don't need that on. It would just allow access from your NAT IP to the storage account for being able to see what's going on there.
Yeah, because you've got access to the control plane, but not the data plane, right?
Correct.
So
yeah.
So we just for a real edge case. And then the branch policies will make sure that there's approvals on pull requests and things like that.
Jared, is it worth talking about line 22 as well?
Sure. So and again, recommend keeping this on by default. But basically, we have a concept of governed pipelines in both Azure DevOps and GitHub, where you can specify that a specific template must be used within a GitHub action in this case. And the workload identity federation subject specifies that it will only give you credentials if it's running in the context of this particular template. So that template in the case of Terraform would be something that can only do init, plan, apply, right? Because that's the only things you want to allow somebody to do with your credentials with Terraform. It's not going to let them do some of a Azure CLI command or something like that. Yeah, and the point here is that we're going to store that template in a separate repository so that it's managed by another pull request process and another set of approvals. That's the point there.
So your sneaky devs can't go and add another pipeline into the repo and then use the same credentials because it won't work.
Sneaky devs.
Sneaky devs.
Sneaky. It's a family show. You said I wasn't allowed to swear, so
well,
sneaky.
I mean, we're all developers these days, right?
We are. So say we all. So when we say templates, we're talking about GitHub Actions.
Yeah. So there's a whole bunch of other settings that are not shown in this file, which you normally wouldn't ever need. But if you look at any of the variables in our Bootstrap modules, you can actually set those through this file if you want to. So when I mentioned before, in some advanced scenarios like having a completely custom naming convention for all the Bootstrap resources, you can do that and you can specify it in this file. But by default, we don't include things like that. But if you go to like our FAQs in the docs, you can see how to do things like that as well.
Just quickly, before the next step is to actually run this Bootstrap, but I would like to double check in the Azure portal whether we've got owner rights at that top level.
Look what I just...
Well, that doesn't necessarily give you it, though.
No,
that
but
just gives you permission to grant yourself owner rights.
Yeah, it was literally when you guys were just talking, I was like, that needs to be switched on. I'm going to go and check it, right?
Yeah.
So
if you now go to management groups in the portal, and tenant root and IAM and
where is it?
Access control IAM. They keep moving it around, don't they?
That's right. Yeah. Like the resource groups are now in settings.
It's like in the supermarket when they move the potatoes over there. You're like, well, why have they done that? But roller times.
Loads of weird and wonderful stuff in here.
A supermarket where all the aisles are labeled with goods.
I just add in yourself in here.
I'm going to do that.
It's on
privilege,
it's there now.
Owner.
It's like, are you sure you want to do this?
Select members.
You already were.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, actually, no. Go previous. Sorry, you don't want any conditions on there. Yeah.
Viewers' discretion is advised, right? On that one. Yeah.
Active, not eligible.
Yeah. Permanent.
Permanent. Yeah.
Reviewing at resign.
It's really trying to steer you towards some better.
Sure you know what you're doing.
Oh. It's already there. It's already there. Right. That's why.
Okay.
Oh no.
Right.
Yeah. Mod administrators over there with owner, so that's cool.
All right. Awesome. Great thought though. All right. So do we need to paste that text file that we got before with the VARS?
Yeah.
Is that the VWAN?
Yeah.
All right.
It's like a Offspring intro there. And look at that. That goodness.
That's a big TFR file.
That's a big file.
Yeah. So
is that one object?
No, it's multiple variables, but some of them are relatively large objects. Yeah.
I see we're using HCL templating syntax here with the double dollars.
Yeah. So I can explain a bit what's going on. Like basically at the top here in this custom replacements block or object, we basically specify all the names of all the resources and also things like IP address, CIDR blocks and things like that. We do all that in this top section, and then we use those throughout everywhere else, so you don't have to write the same thing multiple times. So we build up names, we build up resource group names. We build up resource IDs that we need in this top section up here, and then you'll see below that we're using a reference to these down below, so we can build up templates. You can add custom things in here as well, right? So you don't have to just stick with what we've got in here. If you want to build a custom name that you use somewhere further down below, then you can do that. So these are our default ones. Like we've got the resource group names, resource names, and we've got the connectivity resource names as well.
So just for clarity, there was a statement made with the old ALZ deployment, and it was configure, not customize. Is that still the case?
Yes, I think so. Yeah. Sorry, for this accelerator, it's all configure, right? So this is the configuration. We're not changing any Terraform code here. We've not even seen the Terraform code yet. This is just the TFVARS file. So at no point are we going to change any Terraform code. We're just going to change the inputs. So the inputs are very flexible to cater for multiple different customers and use cases. So that's why we've got this config file that might look more complicated than a normal Terraform config file, but it provides that flexibility to do whatever we need to do.
So here's the CD address.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna.
By the way, Jared, you echo.
Sorry.
You have an
echo.
Sorry. For the recordings, like you might want to mute when you're not speaking. And honestly, Kevin, you might want to just re-ask that question again. I don't know, because it was kind of hard to hear.
Yeah. So configure, not customize, is the mantra still, right? For deploying the ALZ Accelerator. Like I've had feedback from customers. I want to get into the Terraform files and mess it up, basically. That's the only way I can sort of explain it, right? But you can do, but then you're going to create more problems for yourself further down the street, right?
Well, if we ever update a module and you've customized it, then you're now managing a fork, aren't you? So I think we've tried to cater for about 80% of the scenarios here, and Jared's done a great job of actually implementing that, but it's never going to cover absolutely everything, although it's pretty flexible. So I guess the advice would be to try this first.
Right, okay.
Jared, sorry, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I'm worried I've got an echo, but I'll find my headset in a second. But yes, we tried to cater for pretty much every scenario that we can think of in here. But at the end of the day, you can take what we've got as the base here and then customize the Terraform code if you want to, and we'll see that code when we do the Bootstrap later. Yeah.
So I'm looking for some true and falses in here. Would that be in here, or would that be in another file further down?
True and false for.
Well, I want to.
Yeah, you want to.
I want to disable.
Yeah. So if you look in that options section, it talks you through what you need to do, and basically you're going to need to comment out some of the lines in here to do what you want to do. You look at the particular option, or I can talk you through it.
Yeah. Let's quickly just do it, right? I think that's a great. So would it be 37? Would we start off on there?
Yeah. So yes, as a cleanup thing, you would probably delete line 37, or in our case, we can just comment it out so we can see that what we've done. Yeah, and then if you 42.
By the way, we're just disabling the enhanced DDoS protection plan.
Yeah.
Right?
So yeah, you can still use per public IP DDoS protection, of course. And if we go a bit further down, there should be a resource ID. Yeah, there. So we can get rid of that one. That's actually the resource group ID. So we're just not going to deploy that resource group. And then further down, we've got the DDoS protection plan ID itself there. So yeah, that one. And then if we go a bit further, we've got in the instructions, we give you a bit more an easier way to find these things. So if line 172, we can get rid of that.
So the existence of these attributes will cause the resources to be
Well,
created?
the ones that we've looked at so far wouldn't make any difference. But just for cleaning up, we'd tell people to comment out or remove these ones as well. When we get to this natural section where it's got the DDoS protection plan, and that's when we comment that out, that's the bit that tells it not to deploy it. So you're a bit further down. So we can get rid of that resource group there. So lines 255 to 258, you can do like a block comment or comment out each line there. Yep. And then well, there's one more place that we need to do. It's 1281 to 285. So by commenting out all those things, it will not deploy a DDoS protection plan.
Okay, awesome.
We also need to edit the policy to do
Yeah, sorry, yeah, we do. Scroll up a bit.
Okay.
We've actually got it in here already to make it easier. If you just scroll down a little bit, you see that commented out section there that says example of how to update enforcement. Yeah. So if you just get rid of the block comment around that, and then 224 as well. Yeah.
So what that's doing is the reason we have to do this is because there's a deploy if not exist policy, which is there by default, which every time you create a VNet, it will try and assign the DDoS plan to that VNet. The problem is the default value for the parameter is a subscription ID of all zeros because there has to be a default. So basically, if you don't create the DDoS plan, it doesn't update the policy parameter, which means that you can never create a VNet. It'll always fail. So,
right.
Oh no, it's a modified policy, isn't it? I think not even a deny, which causes basically means the deployment fails. So you've got to tell the policy not to enforce, so that you don't get that error if you don't have a DDoS plan. It's just like an ALZ default that we have, but given of the cost of DDoS, then some customers want to turn it off.
Retail customers love it. Turned on. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good.
So everything that we just did there is detailed line by line in the instructions. So I'm not just making it up.
Pulling it out of gray matter.
So yeah, is there anything else that you wanted to change or adjust?
No, I want to keep it vanilla because like the demo gods, I really want them to be on our side, right? Today.
So I think given that, you're probably good to move on to the next step. The only thing, so if you just scroll right to the top again, there's one setting that as a customer you would have to change, which is that Defender email security contact. You can leave it like that and it'll still work, but just as a customer you would want to replace that with a real email address so that you get alerts from Defender. It'll still deploy this, no problem. Awareness. Would you pull that out in the instructions?
Awesome. Somebody at replaceme.com is going to be
very
unhappy.
Yeah.
Imagine.
I haven't actually checked if that's a real thing.
Right. So
you scroll down.
Yeah.
Scroll down. There you go. You are now on step 10.
Dun, 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 dun.
You just need to change the paths.
Yeah. So yeah, we are running it without a lib folder because we're not updating management group names or anything like that. So it's that one there. But yeah, if you paste that into Notepad and just add a dot in front.
That's exactly
Notepad.
What I'm doing now.
Oh, sorry, whatever you call it in the.
It's the iPad. I don't know.
Oh, just stick it in a new VS Code text file and then.
That's a really good idea, Matt. Yeah, and we can do it on screen, right? So.
Just go Command N and it will give you a new window. But anyway, it's fine.
And then. Do I need to do that one as well?
Yeah, you do. Okay.
Any others?
Oh, that looks good to me. This is where we cross
Oh, yeah.
everything and do the rain dance.
Yeah.
And, you know,
So just for awareness, I have seen on the odd occasions when I've run this, if you've got this open in Visual Studio Code and it's trying to put stuff in that output folder, sometimes VS Code tries to lock that folder for some reason. It might not be the same on Mac, but I've seen it on Windows a couple of times. So hopefully it'll still work, but otherwise you might want to just close VS Code to be on the safe side. That's all I'm saying.
I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
I'm just going to save. Right. And then you think.
Yeah, and then we need to be off one folder from, yeah, see. There we go.
look at that.
I'm logged in. This is just installing the PowerShell YAML module.
I'm nervous.
There's no native support for YAML in PowerShell, is there?
I like the pretty colors.
Thank you.
There you go. Is everyone excited?
It's so much more like vibrant. Like I'm used to Terraform, just like the black and white, you know.
Here we go. Here's something more familiar.
There we go, Mark. You should be starting to feel nice and warm now, right? About it all.
There's all my friends. Azure RM, AZ API, GitHub, Random. Love Random.
It's the best.
I think random is because we have to add something for the storage account name, basically.
Oh, right. Yeah, because you've got to generate a new
Yeah.
name because every name in the world is
Yeah,
taken now,
yeah.
right?
So here we go. We're reading the GitHub organization. That's done. Look at that. And we're getting using the regions module that Mark and I basically wrote at one HashiConf.
That was fun.
I could imagine
Chilling at the
live.
Yeah.
I've written a bunch more like using the AZ API provider to do like capacity checks and like SKU validation. It's insanely powerful.
It's really
stuff.
good.
Now, I think what might be happening now is because this is a brand new subscription. I think it's registering the resource providers.
Yeah. This is Azure RM holding us up now.
I just want to see a deploy creating resource, right? And then that's the acid test right there.
In a minute, you should see stuff happening in your GitHub organization. But
well, you'll have to approve the plan first, but yeah. Fine.
No, as in it should create the repos, right?
It won't do that until you approve the plan. It's just
right. What you didn't whack on auto approve onto this, Jared?
There's a plan. So this is when Terraform, the Azure provider, it tries to register every single resource provider under the sun. That's what it's doing now in this new subscription. So that's why you'll have to just cut this section out of the recording.
Yeah,
I was going to say the console's kind of like besmirching the AZ API provider right now because it looks like we're stuck on AZ API.
Yeah, there's absolutely zero output that it's doing this unless you enable debug logging. Like
which is just like an avalanche.
Yeah. I mean, it's a bit annoying. I think maybe there we go.
Wow, look at the pretty colors.
So you can look at the banner, you can just assume it's good.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, looks
good to me. There's loads of pluses. There's no minuses. That's the thing you need to check, right? Let's go.
Oh, I was going to say it has to be a capital Y, Kevin.
Luckily,
Selling.
Does not. Here we go.
Here we go.
Let's go.
Neo out of the Matrix. Let's go.
It's actually doing resource provider registration
Yeah,
here as well.
because it's doing it to speed up the platform landing zone deployment, basically, and because the identity doesn't necessarily have the permissions to set these, to create these.
So if you go into your browser and go to your GitHub org, you should see a repository. What? Look at that.
That one, yeah.
This is the actual platform landing zone Terraform code you've seen for the first time.
That's amazing.
So I think it's worth pointing out, if you, for some reason, you didn't want to use this accelerator, we do publish all of these Terraform modules that we use in GitHub. So if you wanted to just orchestrate, and we also publish the kind of orchestrated version of them. Is it in, what's the repo name, Jared? Where this stuff is?
ALZ Terraform Accelerator.
Yeah, that's it. So basically all of these files and in this structure are there. So if you didn't want to, for some reason you didn't want to use Accelerator and you really like doing all of this stuff yourself, you can. But this does a lot of the stringing together, and there's a lot of like wiring going on here, which it's just going to save you a lot of time.
That README probably is something that we need to look at some point, because it's kind of the default README of that repository. But
Right, yeah.
We should probably put something a bit more custom. So, who is it? It's doing the roles.
Yeah, it's just doing the container registry and stuff. Is it worth having a look in the Azure portal as well, in the management subscription? I think that's where we decided to put it, just so you can see what it's doing.
This is where like we find out that I typoed the sub ID.
I don't think you did. Look at all that stuff.
Look at that.
So you can look at identity.
I just wanted to see that, because that is like, that was an enigma for years. Because like, how would you get the storage account in to host the state file, right? That was always like the chicken and the egg situation.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that it just bootstraps that in, right? So
if you, and we're using federated identity. Like if you look in the identity one, it should see some, so if you pick any one of them and then look at federated credentials, you see that it's configured that with the name of your Git repo and stuff like that. Oh, it's in settings, sorry. Yeah. So click on that. Well, you can see actually the repo code to cloud, yada, 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 the subject identifier. Yeah. And it's also, the important bit actually is that job workflow ref. See the extra bit in the subject claim? That is the thing that's telling it to use only the managed template. So if your pipeline uses that managed template, you're golden. If it doesn't, you cannot use these credentials. And because those managed pipelines are in a separate repo, the idea is you've got more protection about what your devs can do with that identity.
Yeah, I think we should talk about that for a second, because like, I talk about this if I put my cyber hat on, right? These are the blueprints for your environment, right? So if this is underpinning everything, then you really want to make sure that for your eyes only kind of stuff, because it's effectively mapping out your environment, right? So I know resources and services are important as well, but you don't want people knowing, basically signposting them to where the crown jewels are, right? Say if you got like a data warehouse, or how your perimeter security is set up from a connectivity point of view. So I like the fact that it's sort of like isolating it, or just being really specific about what permissions or what it has access to, right? So that when people make updates to this in the future, that, you know,
There is an awful lot of best practice baked into this stuff, which is why we kind of steer. It's why we want people to use it. It's because it starts you off on the right foot.
There's all one for plan identity has read access, and the apply identity has write access or read write access. So when somebody's doing something like a pull request and it's running a plan, they don't have the permissions to make any changes, right? And the only time that there's permissions to make changes is when somebody approves that they can use that apply identity, basically, which is after the plan's been run already.
Okay, interesting.
The state backend that we're using, I would presume people should not be using that for general purpose state for their workloads, because it's like has the state for this.
I would keep it separate, certainly. And when we're looking at how we're going to implement application landing zones, and it might also be used for subscription vending potentially, or it could be a separate storage account for that to be decided. But certainly for any application workloads would not be in the storage account, certainly not in the same container. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you definitely want to divide and conquer with that, right? Because state files are blueprints again, right? You can go in, start figuring stuff where things are, that kind of thing, right? So, okay.
Just while this is
so it's actually almost at the stage where you can run the pipeline now. We just need one of these agents to come online, and then we'll be good to go.
And this is, do we build our own custom image?
Yeah, we do have. So it's basically when we did this, you can see that container registry schedule task there that actually built the container image based on the standard image that we have in a repository. You could supply your own container image if you wanted to as well, but we just have a standard one that we let people use as a starting point.
And is that like Ubuntu or?
It's Ubuntu, and it's like the PowerShell image, I think it is. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here we go. So is there a way in the GitHub portal that we can check that agent is there?
We can. Yeah. If you go to GitHub, and then if you go to settings on that repository, then where is it? It's under actions. Yeah, and then runners. See that?
There you go.
There it is.
Yes.
Sat there doing nothing.
Lazy. So yeah, if you wanted to, you could go ahead and start deploying the platform landing zone now. If you want to actions. Yeah.
So this is it's important here that we haven't actually deployed Azure Landing Zones yet. We've just deployed the stuff that can deploy Azure Landing Zones for you. And we've done that. We've set all that stuff in a best practice way. We've got a repo full of code. We're ready to click the button now to actually deploy the platform landing zone. But that's all going to be handled by GitHub Actions and an identity that we've created behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff.
So there's two pipelines here. One's for continuous integration, which runs when you do, if you try and make a change and raise a pull request, it's going to run that as part of the branch policy. And then the second one is the actual CI that does the deployment. Yeah.
Also, can we have a small round of applause? First time.
Yeah. The technical intensity on this call has made it happen, right? So, I'm proud.
Only 179 resources.
Yeah, wait.
Just the Bootstrap.
You just wait.
You wait. A lot of ClickUps we just got rid of right there. You know?
Yeah.
So we're going to go on to the delivery, right?
Yeah. So this is when you go to phase 3 in the instructions, it says run this basically.
Okay. So run workflow.
Yeah. There's some options that so there is an option to destroy there, which is obviously potentially dangerous, but we have that there for people that are experimenting and just.
But don't we also have approvals?
Yeah, there's an approval that we're going to see. So we didn't get an error, so your email must have been right. So we do have if you go to if you go to settings before we run this, and then where is it now? Sorry, yeah, environments, yeah, and then there's the apply environment. If you just click into that, you should see that there's an environment protection rule, and it's got that code to cloud / ALZ management approvers. That's a team in your org, and your account is going to be a member of that team. So when it gets to the point of the apply, it's going to stop and say approve it, basically. Yeah.
Okay. So that's really good to point out, because some folks, one, are new to Terraform and infrastructure as a code, and two, and I've had this recently, they're new to GitHub as well, right? Like it's a new world for them, right? So it's good to point out that kind of stuff. So let's click on run workflow. Yeah, let's go for it.
So what it's doing is it's basically it's a curated root module that Jared's written that orchestrates, in this case, 3 modules. One's the ALZ management groups policies module. One's the management module, which is log analytics, Sentinel, that sort of thing. And a third is the VWAN pattern module, which also contains a lot of other good stuff like sidecar networks for private DNS resolver and all that kind of good stuff. So ultimately what you're left with in this repo, if you looked at the code, is standard Terraform with 3 modules to manage. And then going forward, you can choose whether you want to upgrade those modules in the normal Terraform way. Like you can just say, I want this next version because it's got a bug fix or a feature that I want. And that's all you've got. And that TFVARS file that we've had is in your repo now as well.
Are those GitHub runners connected to a private network?
Yeah.
So part of the bootstrapping is putting down kind of like a pilot light
network. Yeah. So it just creates a VNet that's just for this use case, basically, and it basically allows this storage account to it allows the agent to talk to the storage account of a private network, and that's its only use case at the moment. It's also used for the container registry as well.
Don't we deploy a NAT gateway as well?
Yeah, it's got a NAT gateway as well to talk outbound to GitHub. Yeah.
And so once we drop the VWAN, I assume we're gonna probably one of the first things we're gonna do is create a VHub connection.
This bootstrapping, it just stays completely separate for now.
You could do that. We could with subscription vending. You could do that because with sub vending you can tell it to use an existing subscription, and then you could just do the networking bit if you really wanted to do that. But a lot of customers are happy to just leave it as an island. I guess it depends if you want to do the egress outbound traffic thing, that's if you're like a financial services customer or heavily regulated, you probably would want that. So then you have to do some extra stuff.
Yeah, I guess if you're not hitting any data planes, like you'd probably be fine.
The problem with adding those bootstrap things into the platform landing zone is that you might start getting because they're not managed by the platform landing zone, it might start becoming a chicken and egg scenario again. But it's definitely doable. This approval here, and you might just need to refresh because sometimes GitHub takes a minute to catch up with who you are.
I was trying to see if it popped up on my phone, like as a notification, so I could just hit it. But I can't see it.
If you click on the root of the job, there.
The CD, right? No.
Oh, you can't. Okay. Summary.
But it looks like it's trying to. Oh yeah, if you do view there, there's a bar and then it's got view and then.
Oh yeah.
So for some reason it's saying it's not you.
Oh. Yeah. I think you're logged in with the user.
Is that possible?
Maybe he's not.
So Kevin Evans 1, is that the same email?
That's my Git username, but the way that GitHub works, I've got 2 user accounts because I've got a Microsoft one and then I've got my personal one, right? Because of the way we do collaboration at work. So
the email address that you used before, is that for this account here?
That's for I actually went to my account properties to check it, but we could.
So if we have a look if you go to the org, we can look at the team and figure out what's going on. If you click on, you see in the breadcrumbs up at the top, you can just click on code to cloud Inc. I'm pointing at the screen pointlessly here. And then if you go to Teams at the top, then
This is where I've been lying all along.
so for some reason it's not. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there, but it didn't actually add you in there. So there must have been a problem with the lookup. Yeah.
There you go.
We go.
Now, does it cache?
Yeah, if you refresh, it should work.
You have to go back, I think, didn't you?
Yeah, just
You got to go to the run.
repositories, ALZ management, actions, continuous delivery.
There you go. That's better.
Nice.
I'm not entirely sure what happened there. I need to look at that. Why it didn't? It should have flagged an error that it didn't find your account. So I'm not sure what happened there. Yeah.
Off we
We're
go.
channeling Picard in.
I don't know why I put that. Like, I'm a Star Wars guy, but it is what it is.
Right. If you have a look at that now, this might take 20 minutes.
A few moments later, that's exactly what it's going to say on this video.
I think once we start seeing the management groups will be one of the first things it creates, so we can start to look at that in the portal.
Fingers crossed. I love the fact that it builds the pipeline for you, right?
Yeah, it does everything. It's amazing.
Automate.
I was doing virtual WAN first. Oh, no.
With Terraform.
Mark willed it. He manifested it.
You did. Yeah.
We are rocking a legit AT-AT right now. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're rocking it.
So you get a lot for your money, this is free. So yeah, you get a lot for your money in terms of a thing that just works at the end of it. But yeah, we should be able to see stuff now in the management subscription.
Yeah.
And the connectivity subscription.
So let's check out connectivity. Look at that. Boom.
There's my VWAN. It owes its life to me. It would have just been a little VNet.
What did you say as well?
There won't be anything in identity. Identities for domain controllers. So,
yeah, it is purely. People get confused with that all the time, right? Like, I'm like, and I say out loud, and it always gets like a look around the room. I go, "That's for legacy services," and they go,
"Yeah, I know." Just because it's weird in our job, we're so privileged. Like I haven't touched a domain controller in years, but yeah, they do exist. I hear.
I do, yeah. And then, like, you know, if we talk about best practices around domain controllers as well, is you should have 2 per region in different zones, right? Like, all those conversations happen, and you know, high availability that Azure should be able to survive. Whoa. Azure should be able to survive. It's okay, Matt. That woke me up.
Surprised my dogs didn't get
start
having a conversation.
So they need to build in the Teams noise reduction into this because that's so good. Like they can be absolutely going crazy and nobody hears it. Anyway, yeah.
Let's have a look. Virtual hubs, private DNS zones.
An interesting fun fact: as soon as we integrated as soon as we released this new accelerator, one of the most popular AVM modules was the private DNS zone module, because every time you deploy it, there's like 60 private DNS zones. So like the telemetry on it just went through the roof.
So like let's just talk about that for a second. So this is all built from AVM. Is that right?
It is now, yeah.
It is now, yeah. So we talked about Azure Verified Modules a few months back, right, on the show, and it was more about maintainers, right? Having a Microsoft FTE being like the sponsor per module, but like anybody could collaborate to it, right? And add value. But so is this just pulling straight from the AVM repos? Is that how it works? Like, what's the structure of this?
It's just nested modules, yeah, basically.
Right.
If you look in your if you go to your code view, you can actually see which modules that you're using. Scroll up to the top in code.
Yeah, go hit the repo.
Repo.
If you click on summary, it'll tell you. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just.
And then you open code in a new tab if you want.
Hit code on the left.
I'm being stupid here.
Oh, you can't right click though, can you?
You're working with
Or
that mouse, you know.
Have you
that
you need
Mac mouse? You're charging it right now. You can tell, you know. You're like,
it's on its side.
how can I move it with this cable plugged into the bottom?
Right. So yeah, sorry, we're being facetious.
It's fine. I'm used to it.
If you go
No,
to
we're not, man.
if you go into modules directory, I think it's in the best place to look at it in there. And then yeah, so you've got
it's been moved up a level if you remember. You refactored it, so it's in the main.connectivity.virtual.WAN file now.
Okay. So if you look at that, then there you go.
Okay, so it's just
so you can see the
literally
module,
pulling
the
the
AVM
module.
module that we're using to do this. And the reason that we've done this is because you're now just managing Terraform. Like there's when we release 0.2.1 of this, you can just update that and you'll get that bug fixed, right? There's no need to run that Bootstrap or anything again. You're just
rerun the
you're essentially you're just managing 3 Terraform modules really now. Yeah.
We basically set up day 2 ops. Like you are now day 2 enabled, which I love because I feel like that's something that like historically I feel like at Microsoft we focus so much on like day 1 just shooting stuff up to the cloud, but like this is beautiful because it's like now we're not just like giving you the keys and like pushing you on your way. We're like, yeah, you have a nice way to maintain this going forward. It's beautiful.
No, I like that as well because back to that organic conversation, that this is as organic as the other resources in Azure, because typically, the people that are managing this are normally traditional infrastructure teams, cyber teams, right? And there's normally a learning curve where I go, this is going to change, and they're like, why? Like, because it's the cloud, right? This is what we do, right? It's the innovation, so.
Yeah,
trying to take the pain away as much as possible really helps.
There'll be a new thing, right? There'll be a new feature in
Always
V1 that we'll have to support, and you'll have to update it. Yeah,
but people want it as well because they've probably been like feature request on GitHub, right, asking for it. So awesome. I'm just gonna go back to the pipeline.
Let's go check out the matrix.
Yeah. So what's it doing now?
Still doing V1 because of Mark.
So
V1.
we do some because of the amount of activity.
It's the Bastion host, bro. It's the Bastion
host.
host.
Whoa.
Yeah, that could be a while.
So we do also hit API limits doing some of this sometimes. So behind the scenes, the providers will be getting 49s and it'll be backing off and waiting and then going back and trying again. So like just for the amount of activity we have. So that's why some stuff can take a little. You think, why is it taking 6 minutes to create a private DNS zone? Probably because you've hit an API limit behind the scenes.
I kind of like. So when I used to deploy the old deployment method, I'm going to call it that, Matt. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Classic. Should we call it classic?
Classic. Let's call it classic, right? I used to have to break up. So what I would do is I would have like a logic. I'd deploy like management first, then identity afterwards, and then connectivity last, right? Because if I did it all at once, it would just trip over its own shoelaces, right?
We are lucky in that the AZ API providers got this retry feature now, which not only retries 49s, which we could do anyway, but also allows us to retry on transient errors, which is just fantastic. It's made the management groups and policies so much more reliable. Like how many, like with the classic module, like sometimes it would try and assign a policy that it created the definition, and it would try and assign it, and it would go, oh no, it doesn't exist. And so we ended up having to put time sleeps in, and it was really, really clunky. But now we can just say, look, if you see this error, just retry after, and it's got an exponential retry on it. So it's really cool. It's really made a massive difference. So if you want to see the errors that we retry on, if you look at the AVM pattern module for ALZ, you can see the default value for the retries variable, and you can see all the stuff that we retry on.
So we're doing management groups now as well.
There we go. Yeah. You'll also, if you've ever created, this is a bit nerdy, right? But if you've ever created a policy definition using the Azure RM provider, it takes for some reason, it takes like a minute and a half. Well, this does it. It takes about a second for every policy definition. So, but it creates the management groups first.
Awesome. Let's go and check that out.
There you go. Azure Landing Zones.
It will move the subscriptions underneath those.
That's to bring them under policy, right, as well? Because I know we've got there's one, and I don't know if this rule's still in there. I think it is, or the policy, but don't permit public IPs in the identity subscription, so the domain controllers don't get popped, right? So because people still use domain controllers as tools servers, right, to manage their environment sometimes, right?
Jump box,
literally. Yeah, Mark, it's still yeah.
They use the domain controller as a jump box?
Well, it's got access to everything, right? It's
I'm sorry, I'm not judging you. I mean, I am, but don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. We should be doing policies now.
All right, let's go back.
No, not yet. What are we doing? Bastia. It's VWAN. It's basically I told you.
It's my VWAN.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
It's Mark's VWAN. Yeah.
I love you guys.
I think it's got to do the virtual hubs and then the firewall before it'll start doing the policies. Unfortunately.
Of course, because it needs the values for the resource ID, doesn't it? Yeah.
We're up to nearly 1,300 lines.
Yep. This is a bit. I know the term has become popular recently, but this is a bit of a terrorlith, and we are working on ways of, like I spoke about at the beginning, was working on ways of making it. The management stuff is different to the connectivity stuff, which is different to the policy stuff. Just to kind of, but this is the V1.
So I am really excited for that because just prior to Microsoft, worked with a lot of 3P, and it's like you got different elements of, like in a large enterprise, right? You're gonna have different operators that manage different aspects.
Yeah, exactly.
Of it.
Yeah.
Smaller organizations, I mean, it's probably just like one team.
If it's one team, then it doesn't. Yeah. But still, there's no. The other thing is to use more targeted identities. So there's, if you're making a change to your VWAN, you don't need an identity that's got rights right at the top level. So it's just some stuff that we want to improve.
Totally. Yeah.
So I'm going to make a note at the time so we can edit this out.
This is hot chat. This is good.
By the way, when I click stop at the end, don't exit the browser because it's still uploading.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to be captive while it's uploading?
Depends how fast your internet is.
I got 5 gigs.
I got 1 gig.
I mean, that's good, Matt. I don't feel like the folks in North America understand that, we've only just pretty much got fiber in the UK, right? We were still using telephone lines.
I got fiber to the house now, but when, in the UK, when you drive around, I'm not sure if this happens in America, but when you drive around in the UK, it's quite common to have absolutely no mobile phone signal. And when you go on a train, it's just useless.
Mm. There's dead zones in the States, especially if it's particularly hilly. I live near a river valley, and sometimes at some spots in that river valley, it's crap.
If I drive 35 miles and we use kilometers here in Canada, right? But I still use
Yeah.
miles, right? Yeah, right. There's literally a sign saying your phone will not work past this sign, right? And it just literally, it's the Rockies, right? It's just, it's gone.
So are you fully metric in Canada? Do you centigrade and stuff?
Yes, but but everything is everything's made in the US. So when you buy like an oven, right, it's all in Fahrenheit, and I'm like, I don't know what it is. Like, I know that 400 degrees Fahrenheit is 200 degrees Celsius, I think, right? That's pretty much my quick math. My quick math, right? But yeah, so like again, looking for houses, it's in square feet and not
square meters.
Yeah.
So what do they call a quarter pounder in Canada?
A quarter pounder is a quarter pounder, Mark. Still wherever you go, right?
It's weird. If you go to like mainland Europe, though, like you will order steak and it will be grams. You have a 300 gram steak.
It's ounces here. Steak.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But weirdly, I'm not sure if they do this in Europe, but weirdly, televisions are resolutely still imperial, right? We measure televisions in inches for some reason. Yeah.
Yeah, they do that here.
Yeah.
It's because of pictures, right? Like if you're hanging a picture on the wall. Yeah. So I thought you were going to carry on with the Pulp Fiction reference then, Mark. I thought that was
a Royale.
Royale with cheese.
Yeah. No, I think they got it.
Well, we were 15 minutes for the hubs. Shouldn't be too much longer.
It's the policies that take a while.
No, the policies are real quick now.
Are they rapid
unless
now?
you hit?
Used to just be like,
well, and yeah, I know. Like I said, they're really quick until you hit an eventual consistency retriable error, and then sometimes it can weirdly take like 20 minutes to create one policy assignment. But yeah, it's just the platform.
This is more smooth though. I can already tell.
We added some more permissions in the other day, which might have helped with the bank a bit. Or a phrase that we were getting before. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Are those DNS zones like dependent on something like the long pole? Like, it seems odd that the DNS zones are.
Well, there's a lot of them.
There are a lot of them.
Yeah. Oh, maybe I can't even differentiate between like the different ones.
Yeah, it's like all the private link services.
So it's just going through a huge list, and it's like,
So for every,
they all look the same to me.
So. Yeah, for every like, I'm going to say like PaaS-like service in Azure, there's a DNS zone for it, right? So the more we build, the more services release, the more this has to be updated, right?
Some services have like storage has like 4.
Yeah, right. And then some are regional as well, like backup and batch and stuff.
Azure local.
Oh, yeah, that's not doing anything at the moment. It's just there. There's a note. That's for VM. For VMs in the future. That one.
Very hot topic at the moment. Azure local. Yeah.
Do you guys publish the average, the monthly bill for each of the like the TFVAR files?
It's difficult because some of it's consumption based, but no, we don't. We probably could for, because if you customize it, then what do you do? But we probably could for the standard config.
We have people asking about it, customers asking about it. Like when we run our VBD, which is like how we deliver it to customers, there is that question.
I think like all the AVM modules, like we should do that. Like just somebody spins it. That should be part of like the definition of done. Spin it up, run it for a month, and then write down how much it costs, and then be like roughly this, right? Unless you change the config, and then it's like you're on your own, right?
And I think it's Terraform Cloud. It'll tell you the estimated like list price cost, right?
Well,
just before you deploy it. But
it will do if you use the Azure RM provider. It will not do that.
It also only works for IaaS and doesn't really work for PaaS services well. But anything that's metered.
Static, heavy metal, as Mark calls it, right? I like that term.
Heavy metal is pretty easy to predict.
Yeah.
But
They've started estimating the cost in the portal now. I don't know if you've deployed something in the portal recently, but it tells you like the cost. Yeah, that was a few weeks back, right? So.
Deployed something to the portal, Kevin.
Well, that's how you do your R&D, right, Mark? Don't judge, Mark. Don't judge.
I'm just saying, like, know your audience, man.
I do, but like, do you know how many times I've reverse engineered something into Terraform?
No, that's
yeah.
Discovery
with
tool.
the plan,
Discovery tool.
apply.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta deploy it manually first.
18 minutes on those hubs, Mark. This is
beauty.
I'm more.
Where would it be?
The virtual hub is in there, but it's a hidden resource. If you click on show hidden resource,
because it should say that it's coming up.
Why is that hidden?
Don't fuss with it though. Don't touch it.
It's hidden.
Don't
so another way to see it is if you go into the actual B1 instead and click. The reason it's hidden is because you're meant to access it via the B1 basically.
So it should say like, oh no, it says it's up.
Yeah, the virtual hub.
Yeah, I can't remember what thing they're under. Connectivity, maybe. I don't know.
See it? There's a tab there as well.
Connectivity.
That says it succeeded, but
might be on firewalls. Firewalls.
I love the map.
DNS zones.
But it's not under security, right?
It's in the hub. I think it's in the hub.
Yeah, if you
can
click on the
configure
hub, then there's subsections for point to site and stuff.
Yeah. Nil pois.
Are we gonna deploy a firewall?
Yeah. I'm not sure where it's up to at the moment. If we look in the pipeline again.
Kind of a question's that, Mark. There's always a firewall deployed, right?
Okay, so it's moving the subscriptions in now.
You're talking to one of those sneaky app developers.
Yeah. Okay.
We're in role definition land.
Yeah, here we go. Should be doing policies. Here we go.
There we go. It's kicking off.
So okay, so it's taking 10 seconds, but in Azure RM to create a policy definition takes 1.5 minutes. So this is a lot quicker.
Matt, FFFF, just glazing the AZ API.
The future.
It's the future.
It's still creating a virtual hub. And it says complete there.
Yeah, nice.
A lot of policy definitions.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
how many resources was this in the plan? It's like, I think it was over 1,000, wasn't it?
I don't even know if we have history to go back that far.
Yeah. Run out of buffer.
Yeah, no kidding.
There we go. Terraform plan for apply in that step there.
You can look at and there's a show plan for review step as well.
So, yeah.
You have to scroll all the way to the bottom of it.
You might just want to grab the scroll bar like token on the right and just like place it.
There isn't. Oh, there is.
Yeah. Oh my lord. Gotta love
Elevator is going all the way down.
Scroll up a little bit. What lines?
948.
948. Lucky number 948.
I mean, like, so I've talked about this before, but I had a job where I worked for a partner and we deployed landing zones, right? And we wrote all the Terraform code by hand and everything else. And it would take weeks. And now we're effectively doing what? 948 resources within a couple of hours. Like,
Couple of hours. How long do you think we're going to be here, man?
I'm trying to go as fast as I can, man. But like, still, right? Half a day's work. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You know, not doing it by hand, right?
All the best practices built in.
Get you up and going.
So,
Love the fact that it scrolled all the way down to the bottom for me.
Wow, it's still creating that role definition. Jesus.
Yeah, I mean it just looks like policy at this point.
So that's a that was a role definition. That's in a custom. We have a few custom roles that we deploy, but
oh yeah, role definition, policy definition.
These like historically, these have taken a long time. The eventual consistency on the role requirement.
So management would be after this, right? And that would be your log analytics workspace.
that should be done.
That should be done. So forecast is going up.
I've never heard anybody so excited that their Azure bill's going up.
The bottom.
I'm not paying for it, Mark. That's why.
So we've got all the stuff in here for the new Azure Monitor agent. So all the DCRs.
What are those?
Log analytics. They are data collection.
Right. Okay.
Data collection rules. So if you want to monitor VMs, then there's a data collection rule which tells the agent what stuff to collect, basically. So that's all done for you. Also, Azure Monitor agent also needs a user managed identity.
I think there's like a different solution for container insights, right?
I don't know.
I think AKS needs more like different.
Yes, there is a container insights monitoring solution. Yeah.
My dog's stomach is like growling.
Does he need to go outside?
He's oh no, he's got a tummy ache.
Yeah, we have absolutely smashed these Azure management APIs.
Come back tomorrow. You've had your fill, right?
5 minutes. Wow.
You know what would be nice is if like there was some sort of like, I mean that is the nice thing about Bicep is like there is like a little status indicator, you know, that you can kind of see the number of resources, because like we had a plan of 948. You know, where are we right now? That'd be kind of nice to see like X of 948 right now, because I mean this is familiar, but like when you're doing big deployments like this, yeah, it's like how far are we from being done? That's my only plug for Bicep. Okay.
And welcome back. So we took I'm going to say a short break, but it was an hour, right? Because we didn't want to obviously entertain you out on the internet with a scrolling, verbose output log of our Terraform modules being deployed. But as you can see, we got to line 4,875, right? We've successfully deployed 948 resources, and we've outputted.
There was no magic. There was no magic, right? First time worked.
Absolutely first time.
We can all attest. Yep.
I think just a round of applause. Yeah. But let's just go to the portal to double check it. So I was already having a little bit of a a gander in here. But if we go into the connectivity, because obviously connectivity is most important, depending on who you are. But we've got our Bastion service, right, for our management. We've got our firewall deployed, and we've got our firewall policy. We've got dependent DNS resolver resources deployed, and our express route gateway and our VPNs gateway site to site. Now, we were just having an offline conversation about this. Now, you can configure, right, Jared, like which one you want, right? Because if you want to start small with a site-to-site VPN, and then as the migration or your environment matures, then you bring in an express route gateway. You can add that in at a later date, right? So awesome.
There's a lot of stuff here.
A lot of stuff. Like it's. So if I go to management, and in here we can see that we've got our log analytics workspace, so a centralized point, which is obviously one of our better recommendations around how that should be all plumbed together, right? Because we want to centralize logs, because we might want to stick Sentinel on there, right, or point Sentinel to at that point, right? So
Sentinel default? I think it is, isn't
it? Not in this one, no. I don't think so. Anyway, yeah.
But just having all your logs in a central place just makes it easier, right?
Yeah. The reason that we do it is if you're hunting for threats and stuff, then it's easier to do it in one workspace rather than doing cross workspace queries, which are expensive and hard. So yeah, some customers do choose to do regional log analytics, but we tend to recommend central.
And I would imagine a lot of those deploy if not exist policies are basically just like routing logs into that repository.
Yeah. So we have a deploy diagnostic settings policies, which means that, you deploy a foo resource, then 15 minutes later the dyno will kick in and it will deploy the diagnostic settings for that foo resource, and it will then chuck all the logs back at that workspace.
So yeah, come in here now and see how.
So check the scope. What scope have you selected?
I think I've just done. Let's do tenant root group.
Yeah, that's fine.
So like that should do everything, right? And then view should tell me how bad.
Well, not tenant root. There won't be anything at tenant root group. There'll only be policies assigned at the Azure Landing Zones group, which is underneath that.
So if I do
that one, yeah.
And there you have it, right? Like policies and the scope that we've targeted at, right? So I always say to customers, again, we have like an analysis paralysis moment, like when they're trying to think up of initiatives and everything else. Just go with that straight away when you're trying to think about, what you're trying to do, right? Unless you've got some sort of regulatory compliance, federal, right? Maybe the banking space, that kind of thing. But it's always good to start there.
We should explain why some of these policies are not compliant, and that's because of the order of operations. So that configure Azure activity logs to stream to specified log analytics workspace. That's a subscription setting. And what happens is the subscriptions got moved under the management group hierarchy before that policy got assigned. So the way deploy if not exist works is that means that policy won't deploy if not exist now. So the way to fix it is to run a remediation task, and that'll sort that out. But that's the reason. It's just an order of operations thing. But yeah, you can fix that yourself by doing that.
Well, couldn't it be possible that some of these policies like haven't even synchronized with current state? Because we just deployed this like a few minutes.
Yeah, the policies were a little while ago because the gateways were the last thing, and they took a few minutes. So, but
it did do some assignments after the gateways as well.
But, yes, it did. You're right.
Yeah. But yeah, so some of them aren't quite there yet.
What is the synchronization rate for Azure? Like back in the day, it was 4 hours. I don't know what it is now. But...
You mean the scheduler in Azure?
Like where it goes and runs. Like you can
24 hours.
Yeah,
you can tell it to do it, but it's roughly 24 hours is
Yeah.
they will update the compliance type. Unless you do a put on the resource, in which case it will do it there and then.
But I would imagine this is going to have to gestate for a little bit to see what it actually looks like, unless you guys like capture. Do you know exactly what the policy like report should look like? Day one.
What the report should look like, I don't have that. No.
So that raises a good point as well about the scheduler time. Now, on the classic variant, I like that as well. Matt, great coin the term there.
You mean when we're talking about the old Terraform module here?
When we're talking about the old Terraform module, right? So when you used to be testing and say like, you don't know, you give your I think it's like management group ID or company ID, right, for the structure in here. Say if you deployed it, then you noticed a mistake, and then you walked back, destroyed it, but then gave it the same name, it would say it was still that was taken, right? Or you'd have configuration issues because you'd have to wait for that scheduler to catch up. So
you can still get that if you can get kind of weird side effects if you delete a management group and then create another one with the same name.
That's right. Yeah,
that still happens.
Okay, so as we can see here, it's placed the subscriptions in there. Very nice. Awesome. Okay. Right, I'm going to just quickly show identity, but there's nothing exciting. It should be empty.
I think it is empty, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just got default log analytics lit. And again, we've talked about this earlier on. People think, oh, that's where traditional I was going to say legacy again. Traditional identity services would live in here, such as domain controllers, right? For those sort of classic resources that require, Kerberos authentication or Windows Active Directory domain control services, right? So you place your domain controllers in here. And I think that's about it. I think the one last thing was our secondary region, right? So our primary region for this was Canada Central. And then West US 2, right, was our secondary hub. Mm-hmm. We can see we've stood up all the connectivity resources in there. So I think that's it, gentlemen, right? If there's anything else that we want to talk about or advocate for, as part of this deployment, but I'm just really happy that it deployed, to be quite honest, right? So
should we give it a round of applause?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah, let's go. Way to go, Jared.
Jared, well done. Solid work, right?
A lot of blood, sweat, and tears put into that. So,
exactly, right? So, so just a quick wrap up, Matt, Jared. Where do people, if they want to keep, I used to click the notification bell icon in the GitHub repo if there was any updates for this. Is it the same kind of process to go to the GitHub repo and select notify me on notifications with new updates, or is there somewhere else that folks should check in for?
That's one place you could go. We also have our community call, which is once a quarter, is it, Matt? Now?
Roughly.
Yeah. So we have an ALZ community call that you can join, and we'll talk about any significant updates on there. Yeah, but for sort of small updates, then you can check out our releases. So we have a release tab basically on the module where you can see any updates that are going in there.
Yeah, recommend you subscribe. I mean, you'll only actually have 3 in your repo. You'll have the ALZ pattern module for the management groups. You have the management module for the management resources, and the connectivity one. So there's only 3 repos you'll need to subscribe to.
Awesome. Okay. Any final thoughts, Mark?
I just had a question to Matt and Jared, because I know you guys have mentioned that there's some work to kind of break these up. How tightly coupled are these 3? Because it seems like there's 3 chunks of this sandwich, I guess. Are they relatively well compartmentalized components?
There are dependencies. So, for example, the ALZ management module deploys the log analytics workspace, but we need that resource ID for one of the policies that we use. Well, for more than one of the policies actually. So there are dependencies between them. So that's something that we're going to figure out. There's a number of ways that we can share information between these.
And
files.
Similar with connectivity is also some of the resource IDs are required for the policies from connectivity as well. So things like if you do deploy a DDoS protection plan, you would need that ID for that policy, that kind of stuff. So yeah.
But yeah, it's totally possible to do. You just need a way of sharing information. But if you're going to run them as separate state files, you just need a way of sharing information between those state files. And there's a number of ways that you can do that.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, I just want to thank my esteemed colleagues for coming on the show, right? Their thoughts of wisdom, their guidance. I've really enjoyed doing this. Like I didn't deploy it until today, so it was great to come in with a fresh perspective and see how far we've come, right? From the classic module to where we are today. So solid work from the team there. And yeah, so again, if you like what you've watched, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. We love feedback, comments, and don't forget to reach out to us. So until the next time, goodbye for now.
Amazing.